Hey guys, so this is David back. It's 4:32 p.m. on September 7th, 2024. So this is my spot. I'm here all the time. I'm at basically Gabby. My virtual background, so that's why you can't see it. To be fair, a little bit. Bench. There you go, the bench. So, anyways, so what am I doing today, and what am I going to talk about essentially is, remember, I've been incarcerated for 6 days, August 24th, 2024. I've been incarcerated by Ottawa police without a cause. So the idea is, so again, this is not about, the fact that I got pulled over by a police officer or the officer's duty. It's more about the conduct of the police officer. So remember, the laws is clear and no one is above the rule of the law. So August 24th, I get pulled over by some 23-year-old police officer who was by the name Yusuf. So I have recorded on the 17th of this month. So I will be able to give you his badge number once I receive the disclosure. So remember, this is just a normal traffic stop. I get pulled over 9:20 p.m. I'm reaching to the back of my car, as I was stopped to basically get my laptop back because that's where I keep my passport. Now, why I keep my passport, you may ask. Well, my driver license has expired on the 27th of July of this year. I only discovered that when I went with my friend Renee to basically pick up a U-Haul because I own a condo that I was planning to finish renovating so I can actually make some decent money with it as a rental income. Now, I find out that my driver license has expired because the clerk at the U-Haul tells me, sorry, your driver license expired. So anyways, my friend helps me. We're in the truck with his name. He pays. We go to my place. We do what we need to do. And because of the move, I misplaced my driver license at the time. And of course, I had no use of it. So now I'm driving. And just as a disclosure, that I know the fact that since 2021, my driver license has been expired. So the law used to be that you would have to do emission test every 2 years or so. So 2021, my license has expired, but at the time also Doug Ford was coming up with a new law, so to speak. That is, you no longer are required to do the emission test because, surprise, surprise, we've got carbon tax now taking care of the bill. So, that did buy him a lot of votes, so to speak. I have my own, you know, opinion and analysis on the politics when it comes to Ontario and Quebec, but that's not the point of the story. So remember, this was a normal traffic stop. I get pulled over, and before you know it, since I reached to the back of my car to grab my, passport, the police officer, rushes to my door, opens the door, requesting and demanding that I leave my car. I'm under arrest. Now, those who understand the laws and the Constitution is very clear, right? You cannot be arrested without a cause. They have to give you a reason. So in this case, I inquired, but at this time, what the heck? Why am I being arrested? So he tells me I'm arrested because my driver license has been suspended. Okay, great, no problem. So now basically they handcuff me and I'm already a criminal because the way they treat me is that my hands are cuffed behind my back. I'm on the back of my car and basically they're tapping me in search, unlawful search. And essentially I never had the chance to actually close my car. Remember, he ambushed me demanding that I leave my car. So now I'm in the back of, the car. My head is on the trunk, my hands behind my back, handcuffed. Uh, police officer, searching me. Another police officer is going through my car, unlawful search without a warrant. All for what? Suspended driver license. Allegedly, I broke a law, the broke the law. So I broke a law. Okay, well, I did break the law if that was the case, but which law did I break? The law that I did break was called statute law, man-made statute law. So that is basically the Highway Traffic Act. Okay, so I have alerted the police officer that I had no knowledge of such suspension. Now, normally, you would think the police officers are in the, service of doing their job and serving and protecting the citizen. And I would have the benefit of the doubt. Mind you, he approached me the way he did. He explained himself that because I was reaching to the back of my car, therefore, that was a ground for him to essentially suspect I was, so to speak, a criminal. Maybe I was looking for a knife, a gun. Okay, I get it, man. There's a lot of illegals, in the United States of America, and we have our own share of, of that too, between refugees, illegals, and not as much as the United States of America, but we do have it as a problem. So now, the police are on the edge. Everybody's on the edge. I get it. There's a lot of shit happening in the world. But then now you have essentially, a police officer that has his suspicion, which is good. But now that he actually, allowed me to open the back seat and, produce my passport as a piece of identification. Well, that should have told him I was not lying to the man. I was not trying to beat around the bushes. I told him the truth. I said, listen, I was just reaching for my ID, my passport, so to speak. So, anyways, I'm nobody at this point. I'm shoved at the back of the cruiser. They're going through my car. I have a lot of shit in my car. I sleep in my car. That's nobody's business. That's my life. I'm retired. It doesn't matter. So essentially, he tells me, oh, they come back and they found some cannabis. Now, remember, 2018, 2018 has become legal. So you can actually, go and buy cannabis, provided you buy it from the legal source, that is the government, because you pay tax. It's a tax revenue. And of course, for those who do take cannabis, they understand there's benefits to cannabis and hemp seeds, but pharmaceuticals and the government alike do not want you. But again, if you do take cannabis, there's a reason for them to actually, stop you and incarcerate you because they can plant evidence and, speak ill of you. Remember, so now they go through my car, they found, a few buds of cannabis, less than 3 grams, probably I would say 3 to 4 grams. I don't think there's much of that. Nonetheless, the guy confiscates my, cannabis. It's not cheap. Those who understand good quality cannabis can attest. You can pay up to what, 10 grams at the store, for example, $10 a gram. Anyways, now I'm in the back of the cruiser, and remember these guys are the officers and they are the one professional trained. They are professional trained to basically handle situations and with the public because they are entrusted with the public safety. So not everybody should be a cop and can be a cop for that matter. I would say 9 out of 10 people are really trying to do their best job, and I salute and respect those people in uniform who are true to their oath. That oath they swore. The problem is this: a lot of them are intimidated by the you know hierarchy of the command and the oath they swore. I'm sorry, that oath you cannot break. You'll face martial law. But there's the human in you. You cannot protest against your employer, but you can protest as a human being. That's the key word. You must assert your natural rights and freedom. So if you're a cop or a law enforcement officer or a peace officer, as they would like to call themselves legally, peace officers. So, you have a conscience, and you have subconscious. And what does your subconscious tell you? How does your gut feel when you stop somebody without a cause and, you see them, hands behind the back, handcuffed as a citizen of Canada? There was a contract that has been entered, trust law, right? And that is why I'm talking about this video, because there are people who don't understand why they pursue what they pursue in life. This girl here, her name is Mariam. She's like 17, 18, probably going to first university. She wants to study international business, international management business. So I ask her why, and she doesn't know. Yeah, she just shakes her head. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe good money. I'm thinking in my head, you're already making money. You don't need to go to school to make money. But why are you going to school? So she goes to school because she's told to go to school. Meh, she wants to. She's told to. Meh, she wants to. I don't believe that for a minute. She's confused. That's what she is. So, anyways, if you're in business, you have to understand life is two things I told you: the trust law, and then contract law. If I don't trust you, I would not be coming to do business with you, right? So that's the kind of thing she has to learn the hard way in life. She has not once opened a business herself. She's going to school. She's going to pay university or colleges a tuition fee of God knows what, $10,000 just to study bullshit and repeat it for herself. I know what I'm talking about. She doesn't. Meh, I don't know. Listen, I don't have to tell people what to do in life, but the basic thing is if you want to do is take responsibility and accountability of what you do. I don't care what you do. You could be a janitor, you could be a doctor. Own it. You know, there are good lawyers and bad lawyers. There are good cops and bad cops. There are good engineers and bad engineers. But that's a problem because most good engineers are quiet or good people, so to speak. They got intimidated by the authorities, and you've got, people in power abusing that power because remember, with great power comes great responsibility. And your responsibility is to safeguard and protect those inalienable natural rights and freedom. So sovereignty is with the people, and that's a concept that most don't understand. And what is sovereignty? You have to look at the roots of the word. Sovereignty comes from the word sovereign. What is sovereign? So sovereign, if you go and look at Google or Uncle, you can, have now artificial intelligence because sheep can't think for themselves. So sovereignty basically is a word from sovereign. Sovereign is essentially the, British crown, so to speak, sterling pound. Normally the sterling pound is minted in silver, but sovereign is a special edition. It's in gold. So that is your sovereignty. One sovereign is one citizen, sovereignty. The idea is this: you transfer your sovereignty, right? You transfer that sovereignty to the state. Because now since 1914 we have become a secular world. People, claim they believe, but really nobody believes shit. They're just repeating information. She happens to be Christian because she was born to a Christian family. Her name is Miriam because her parents called her Miriam. She has no clue. She just does what she does because she's told to do. She works because she needs the money. She goes to buy shit. That's why you need the money. So life is buy and sell. Trust law. You need to trust. If you do not have a trust, and trust is not just given. Everybody start with a baseline trust, and trust is gained over time. And I've been coming to this restaurant for 10 years, so I know the owner. His name is Tony. So we talk, and of course, he doesn't have to agree with everything I say. And at the end of the day, I respect him as a man. He is a business owner. He's a hardworking entrepreneur himself. And he understands a thing or two about business because the girl here, she is a smart 17-year-old kid, doesn't know shit. She doesn't want to serve me anymore. Absolutely. I do not want you to serve me. I'm more than happy for you not to serve me. So this is life. People are not forced to do what they don't like to do. And if you don't want to do your job and be proud of what you do not serve. Do not just come and be a zombie robot, just sweeping because, it's going to now create dust. I'm eating. Use your brain. I'm eating and you're sweeping. The dust is everywhere. Basic things. You don't need a PhD. You don't need to go to school to understand basic things. But again, she doesn't know why she's going to management because client service is number one. That's the foundation of trust. There's a reason why you hire one person over the other to do your renovation at home. It's not about the cheapest, because if you are the cheapest, you're gonna come back and pay double because you were a penny wise dollar fool, so to speak. You want to nickel and dime the person with integrity and character. Always choose integrity and character over looks, because you could be honest liar. You could be honest, no problem, but but that's an honest liar. But character and integrity is when you deal and when you actually go through life motions. So you have to experience life and talk to people and not to be ashamed of who you are and what you do for life within the law. Remember that you're free to say and speak and do what you want. Look, I'm here. Nobody can tell me to be quiet. Nobody can silence the truth. I'm here because some people just don't learn how to use their God-given, gifted. We all have that gift. This is the brain, which is the conscious, but you have the subconscious. Your heart beats without your knowing. You breathe. The body, I just ate, is going to digest the food. I don't tell my body to digest the food. But again, how does that happen? There are 5.8 billion people who claim they believe. What do you believe in? You have to go back and ask yourself, what do you believe in? And since 1914, you are going to be chased, oppressed. If you speak in the name of Creator, Almighty, because we are all one mankind. We are all one mankind. But different tribes, different races. We have 5 races to be exact, but those over the centuries and millennials have intermixed so much that we have now what they call, interracial. So we have now been so to speak, cross mixed or crossbred, like they do with animals. But the indigenous, see again, to be an indigenous is different than native. We are all indigenous to Earth. We are all indigenous human beings. But native, so for example, I'm not indigenous to Canada. I'm indigenous to Earth, but I'm native to Canada. I'm not indigenous to Canada. I am native to Canada. I've been here for 25 years. I've been naturalized citizen, but I'm indigenous to the land of Damascus. That's right. I was born in Damascus, but I was born refugee. And for those who understand what that means, they understand what that means. I'm not here to speak about my life story. I'm here to share my thoughts about the state of the world and the fuckery that is happening everywhere. People just do not want to speak, do not want to express themselves because that is fundamental national rights and freedom safeguarded by the Constitution, which again, you've been violated and robbed as you sleep. You go to sleep, they're hard at work, slowly robbing your, life away. So for example, my dad is retired. He's what, 69, 70. He can qualify for maybe 1800 at best. But again, you don't need to. Money is not what define a man. By the time you finish and you retire, the money that you will get you nowhere. Right now, it costs roughly $1,800 for one bedroom, and they talk about 3% inflation. So I bought my first house. I was 21, 2007, $127,000. Now, the fair market value should have been around 439 if you apply the same math to the condo fees that I used to pay $200. So $200, 198 to be specific, $198 in the April of 2007. And now probably 725, I would suspect, because I have not received the latest budget. I have not paid the condo fees for a reason, breach of trust. Remember, business is trust. The foundation is trust. If I don't trust you, I don't need to honor any contract. It's void. And that is foundation of any relationship, be it your wife, be it your girl, be it anybody, person. You must establish trust. And to establish trust, it takes time. So you always give the people the benefit of the doubt. I've gone through small claim courts in the past with my condominium corporation, CCC 109, but it's not finished yet. Now it's a new lawsuit coming because I've requested some records of homeowners and records for the annual budget over the last 7 years, and we'll see if they're going to come forward. Same thing with my bank, personal bank, CIBC, So again, people understand the Constitution supersedes man-made law, which are nothing but legislature, sorry. So there are acts of parliaments, passing the legislature, which is one arm of the government. So you have the legislature, right? And then you need the judiciary, which is the court system, and you need the law enforcement, being the executor. You need all three arms to make a government operate. That is your government. The legislature, so to speak, the parliament, again, judiciary, and your law enforcement. And the idea is this: trust is the keyword, trust. And it's equal side triangle because trust has to be maintained amongst all three, stakeholders, so to speak. They call them stakeholders in the business world. And the government now, through the Constitution as the foundation of this trust, natural law is the foundation of that trust. We are entrusting our natural rights, right? God-given. Believe in God. We believe in God. 500 billion people believe so. This you claim, not my words, So those who believe in God then understand that there's a trust, and based on that trust, we're trusting in the government that those inalienable national rights and freedom, and that is basically when you transfer your sovereignty. You're transferring your sovereignty to the state, because the state is supposed to be, a representation of the citizen of the people. Problem is this: people do not exercise that right, and they think their ballot, their vote, is what actually gets them the government they need. That's not what happens, my friend, because ballots can be tampered with, just like everything else. They can be falsified. The stooges can fabricate evidence against you. And the idea is this: it's not a conspiracy. You just have to understand how the world works. If you're trying to sue someone, you're gonna do everything in your power to defend yourself. So you're gonna hire the best lawyers. And the idea is this: if you're a criminal and you happen to have access to money, you walk away. But if you're not a criminal and you're innocent and you have no money, you're fucked. But not only if you understand the basics the basics of natural law, and that is the foundation of what humans are instructed and told. And that is the supreme laws of the land. So the supreme laws of the land are dictated by the creator, so to speak, right? Obviously, pseudoscientists and Lucifer worshippers do not like you to believe that. So you have now people of weak faith. You call yourself, Hindus, Christian, Muslim, Jew, doesn't matter what you believe in. But if you don't have that faith, in the heart with a strong conviction in the mind, you are just a believer, a blind believer, sheep. You're told to be a Christian, you became a Christian. You're told to be a Muslim, you became a Muslim. You're born to, an agnostic family, or you're agnostic, and you are the product of your environment. You are a learned behavior product. So majority doesn't mean it's right. The truth does not follow majority necessarily. The truth is the truth and is impartial to the majority opinion, because majority opinion is moot in the face of reality and facts. And that is the scientific method, because science, after all, is what? The observation of universal and natural phenomena that we do observe on this earth. So you've got mathematics, a language that we discover. We did not invent mathematics. We discover knowledge. Like the lions. Lions do not go to school to become lions. Lions are lions because they are lions. They're naturally selected to be the lions of the jungle. So lions come from the word leon. Those who understand Latin, leon is supreme. So if you're looking at the lion, he's an animal, and his name is supreme, leon. Supreme what? Supreme animal on the animal kingdom. Because you too have also supreme animal of the sea, which is not the whale. Surprise, surprise. Similar to the elephant. The elephant is a big size. You can, take analogy of an elephant similar to, say, the whale. The whale is not the strongest. There's a killer whale called, or aka orca. So the orca is simply the lion of the sea, whereas the lion is the lion of the land. And then you have human, mankind. Mankind are lions on Mother Earth, both lands and the sea. And we have been entrusted by our Creator to safeguard and protect Mother Earth. And that was the condition for the Israelites, right? The book, the Old Testament, the New Testament, and throughout mankind, the messages have been always brought down to the Israelites until the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, at the time he was sent to everyone, to humanity and the Alameen, both the Insi wa Jinn and the entire world. Because what you see on earth is not just this earth, there's more than one earth, so to speak. And everything can be explained, but that's not what we're going to talk about just now. So understand natural law. You need foundation to be the trust. And once you establish trust, then you can have business with someone, you can build a life with someone. But first is trust. And again, who do you trust? If you're a believer, a person of faith, right? Who do you trust? And the law is very clear. The law is very, very clear, right? So the law is very, very clear. And yeah, that's the Maoist Society, AJ. That's me. My LinkedIn, as you can see, let me just go here. My LinkedIn account, there's a restriction. I cannot actually access my LinkedIn. Since June, I believe June 2nd was my last post. As you can see here, I'm going to go to this side. So this is basically when I started my journey with LinkedIn. I was at virtually no views. June 2023. I've been a member with LinkedIn since 2009. April 2009. And then it was a pro tip at the time, because remember, I have done my internship in 2006 at Alcatel, before they had become Alcatel-Lucent, and that's how I was able to go back 2008 for my last and fifth co-op term. My manager, Fred Orendell, wanted me to specifically work on the project because it was FPGA forensic again, but on the Lucent side of things. So anyways, that's a bit of background and side, but this is life experience. You have stories to share. You have experience you've lived, and this is what makes kids gravitate towards you, and people talk to you because you're more than just an engineer or a guitarist or a customer. Because some people don't want to serve you and talk to you because they're upset when you talk to them and try to educate them and just share something with them. They don't have to listen to you. But I speak from experience. I'm not speaking from void. I speak from experience. I not once read a book in my life, believe it or not, because I received knowledge. Allah yuhibbu man yasha. And that is a conviction that you have to be, aware of yourself, who you are, your purpose in life as a human being, and to speak against tyranny, to speak against oppression, to speak against injustice. And this is not about me and my court case that is happening on the September the 10th of this month, as well as the 17th from my first court appearance. But this is about sharing with you who AJ is, right? Remember, the Crown prosecutor position for me to remain incarcerated for 6 days. I was tasered. I almost died. So there are evidences. When you go before the court, public trial, that is, you must come clear with the evidences. And this is why, essentially, I'm speaking and I'm sharing my story just to share who I am. And there are the facts, because remember, they don't know who I am. But, under the Constitution, if you are really protecting and safeguarding those, rights, and you're respecting the oath, and you do not breach that trust. Remember, there's a trust that now you're basically, there's a trust that is compromised, is being breached when you, as an officer of the peace, so to speak, you're an officer of peace. And I show you my passport, and the passport clearly says, the passport is not to basically stop me and, allow me to travel very easily. Look, I'm gonna make you read that. I don't know if it's possible to read, but I'm gonna read it for you. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada requests in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, of course she's dead, so it's the King now, all those whom it may concern to allow the bearer to pass freely without delay or hindrance, and to afford the bearer such assistance and protection as may be necessary. Now, that's not exactly what happened if you were to watch the videos, because I did get my friend Buria to record the incidents on the August 24th. And you will see how I was treated by the peace officers, and the evidence will speak for themselves. And I have suspicion and believe that I think my mom has sold me out, which is fine. Which is fine. I don't need to speak much of the details. I just know what's happening, and I don't need birds to tell me, so to speak. I can sense things, and I believe my mom has sold me to the courthouse because somehow I'm not staying at her residence. But I don't care to be at her residence because it's not her residence. She stays at city housing. I have my own residence. So if those who wants to find me, they can find me at my residence. So yes, I'm not in breach of any conditions of my bail release, because I have made it very clear there's a violation of my constitutional rights. And that's what you have to argue before the court. You're innocent until proven guilty. But like I told you, this isn't about me and my case. It's about justice. And this is about making sure that if you're an innocent person, you understand how you defend yourself. If you have a family member, a loved one, that you're not lied to, that you're actually going to be listened to and respected. Because remember, you are in charge. You are the executor. You can always assume the executor status. You see, a birth record is called natural birth record. Once you have a natural birth record, then the government gives you a birth certificate. So a birth certificate is essentially the exchange that happens at the registry. Natural rights and freedom as safeguarded by, of course, the creator, versus, privileges and liberty as, issued or protected by the Constitution, because the Constitution is a bylaw. The Constitution can be amended. You have the Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fifth Amendment, but you cannot amend life. You cannot amend reality. That is natural law, universal laws. The law is clear, and they know exactly what this is. Those who know understand what I'm talking about. It's 963 for a reason. 963. But again, knowledge. You do not invent anything. You do not create nothing. You only procreate. You need a woman, and you need a man. You first need a man. Because now you have simps. You don't have men, you have simps. This is the land of simps. All Canada. The land of simps, And the women are so brainwashed nowadays. They're so feminist. They're so feminist. They don't understand the meaning to being a woman. So yes, those are my views. And I'm entitled to my own views. If you don't like what you hear, you can plug your ears. I'm not too loud. You can hear the conversation, the background noise. I'm speaking just above background noise right now. So you see, when you start talking and speaking truth, this is what happens, my friends. You see, I don't know if you can see the mouse, but essentially, when I started my journey on LinkedIn, before I got banned, just see, so I take this off. Yeah. So before I got banned, maybe I should just share. Look it up where. Share screen. This file, desktop, downloads. So here it is. Let me share. So basically what you see here, essentially my profile, right? This is my profile on LinkedIn when I was blocked access. So I was locked out. So that was June 2nd, I believe, 2024. And there was a post by author, speaker, Mr. Robert Price. And he speaks about energy a lot. He authored a few books. And I believe the video was about, jet fuel and scale and how much jet fuel there is, that flies through Austin and here is going on a trip from Austin to Boston, I believe. Anyways, so I gave my post analysis at the time. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of it right now. So this is kind of the battle that I have with LinkedIn. I will be having that battle soon as well. And the idea is this: all this intellectual property is mine. You have no right to keep it if you're gonna block me and block my access. So just look at my profile. So as I said, I've been a member with LinkedIn since 2009, before LinkedIn was actually LinkedIn, because right now it's called Fox N. That's exactly what it is. It's Fox 10 platform for trolls, troll platform. And you see here, I started posting about solar. I had started the business 2023, 613 solar. And, I'm just trying to educate people about energy and how solar works and how you can size your system. Because understand, if you are a person who's looking for a solar system, you need to understand three things. What is the minimum system size? How much does it cost? And what's your payback or return on investment? Right now, I'm trying to do that. It'll take you probably, weeks and months before you find that basic information. So as an engineer, I built an app. And I figured, this app is for people to use. They simply enter their addresses like Google Map, and voila, you get exactly, how much you would need based on some sliders, as user input, and of course the orientation of your house. But that did not really give me much. You see, it's really nothing. Then I start looking into net zero and the government of Canada, what exactly net zero is about. And then you have our Minister of Environment Canada, I believe, Stephen Guilbeault. So I don't need to speak about the person. You guys are more than intelligent and capable to do your own research about that man. But essentially, you have now the government of Canada proposing net zero. Since 2018, we are paying $10, and I have the research done, and I've done all the research myself. So I don't need someone to tell me, what you're saying is conspiracy, because I understand basic math. Let me just see what I can find. So see that. Okay. Views. Medium view. Yes. Bear with me, guys. So, okay. So let's see. That's my mother. She believes I'm unemployed, right? I'm unemployed. I'm an entrepreneur, but my mom, she thinks I'm unemployed. Look, all the content that I have generated over the last few months. And of course, I cannot pass without showing this art. I need to share this art with you guys. Yes, that's right. The Matrix exposed. The Matrix code. Okay. We'll talk about that a bit after solar stuff, but I was speaking about earlier. So not so net zero. Net zero. Here we go. Net zero. Okay, so net zero. Net zero. So as you can see here, basically what I did was basic spreadsheet. There's the numbers here. You can see the federal carbon tax. I did a snapshot from, the Premier of Alberta, Miss Danielle Smith, on LinkedIn. She posted something of the sort where, the federal carbon tax hurt Alberta's families. And, she shows you a table of the year versus total cost versus the rebate, the government that promises you back versus the true cost, right? Which is essentially the difference between true cost versus total cost versus rebate, okay? And this is the store, so you can verify all this. And remember, this is about data and verification. So fact checking. So now, if you utilize the element of critical thinking, well, we have a population in Canada about roughly 40.5 million people. I would say the working force is roughly 65%. So it gives us roughly 26 million people that are actually go to work. So we have 26 million taxpayers. Remember, public trust. So the public trust is a bank account you can go to and actually open. So Canada Trust is a bank account. TD, right? TD, Canada Trust. Now, if you're an employee, you receive a T4 as you file your taxes. And the problem is this: before you even actually receive your T4 or your paycheck, bi-weekly paycheck, you realize that you have already paid taxes, you've paid, CPP contribution, which is the Canada Pension Plan, you have paid EI, which is employment insurance, and some other, miscellaneous charges, depending if you have union dues, you have premium for your own specific corporation or business insurance. So those are the benefits. So we are the beneficiaries. Remember, so you sign a contract or an employment contract, you sign a contract. So you're a beneficiary. You're trading time for money. That's a contract. But now you have to abide by the rule of the employment contract. Very simple. So now look at this math. 2020, the government of Canada essentially have introduced carbon tax at $10, a ton, metric ton. I need to find the actual number so you understand that. And then now we're actually expected to go to 170. $170 by 130. How do I know that? Because, well, I've done the research, and the research is right here. Let me show you where the research. Stop. Not with me. Let's get this. Paint. First line of work, you must restart your software because you don't have a perpetual license anymore. It's always, online. You must always update for the latest and the greatest software update because guess what? They no longer, they need the software update so to add more features, right? And let's see, paint, accessories, paint, where's paint? It's all on that. 3D paints, we found 3D paint, we don't want that. Paint. Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. Just bear with me a minute. Okay, here it is. Let's set it. So there we go. So now 2014. So now, as I said before, so since 2018, the government of Canada, remember 2015, the Liberal came in, October 2015, and then in the same year, December, we had first accord signed. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I'm gonna try and highlight specific things as we speak. Gosh. So we had Paris Accord. The color. Paris Accord were signed of December 2015, and that's when Canada basically has signed the United Nations Assembly with over there, I believe 196 nations, right? Net zero accord or net zero. And the idea is net zero. You will be paying a tax for carbon tax. And in 2018, they introduced $10 per metric ton. And right now in 2024, so this is 2018 dollars, and 2024 now we're paying roughly $80 per metric ton. Now, so think of it this way: by 2030, it will be a $100.07 per metric ton. So you're like, okay, how did I come up with my numbers? Well, simple. Well, for that, I'll have to show you something else called net zero emission. So what is net zero emission for Canada? Here we are, and let me just share. I started this last year, so I have the infographic way back. So here. So let's do share. So as you can see, so this is when I first started my business. start talking about this is kind of the initial post that I was sharing with people, some infographic in Canada, and this is essentially megaton CO2. This is net zero. What net zero is very simple. So you've got a government that now wants to eliminate fossil fuel because of carbon dioxide, aka CO2, is allegedly the offending number one contributor to climate change and global warming. So that is the theory that pseudoscience is advanced. Now, so the governments worldwide essentially wanted to now impose, emission caps, or essentially each country, when you burn fossil fuel, that basically generates carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is pollution. It's bad for the environment. Correct. I am anti-pollution, which is man-made. I'm not anti-natural climate change, which is cyclical, which the pseudoscience has yet to fully understand, let alone explain the mechanism of which, natural climate change happens. So now, we've got Canada. In 2005, we had roughly 732 megatons. So mega is a million. Ton is 1,000. So we have 1 billion kilograms, so to speak, of carbon dioxide emission. So we, at the time, per capita, so 732 megaton CO2, or a billion kilogram. So we are essentially, in terms of the emission world per capita ranking, we are number 10. These are 2019 figures, I believe. 2019, but I'm updating the figures here for 2021. Now, so our share of the world in terms of emission is only 1.5%. Okay, so 1.5% of the world emission is due to the energy consumption here in Canada, fossil fuel burning. Now, when you look at fossil fuel, so on June 29, 2021, the Canada Net Zero Accountability Emission Act became a law. A law. Remember, a law cannot become a law before it has to go through the House of Commons for review, and all laws starts as bills. So bill, now we have bills, and once they go through review, motion review, they become acts, and acts basically they go through the royal assent and become laws. But they are man-made laws, still man-made laws, because they have to go through the due process of the law. So under this law, understand Canada has committed to reduce its greenhouse gases emission by 40% to 45% below the 2005 reference baseline. That was the year chosen for basically net zero target emission. So we have to go from 732 megaton to zero. So when you ask questions and you inquire, what do you mean by net zero? Are we offsetting? Are we eliminating? What exactly are we? And the government is not very clear. But really what they're trying to tell you is that, well, we cannot achieve net zero without, consuming more energy, because it's very simple. The fundamental laws of, the universal laws is you cannot create something from nothing. That is universally accepted. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy can only be transferred from one form to the other, with efficiency cannot exceed 100%, meaning to do anything of any sort of nature to actually go about producing so-called green energy in layman term, solar panels, battery packs, we name it, right? Those are the green energy product that we are being sold to by no other than the charlatans and the, Ponzi scheme in the power. That is the WEF, World Economic Forum, which are a non-government organization that kind of has been sold to. And the idea is that they want to eliminate the use of fossil fuel because, well, when you electrify everything, you cannot generate electricity, without the natural resources. But now only corporation will be able to afford those natural resources, carbon emission credits. So they call them, forget, but there's some sort of like an investment, and sort of like SIG, I believe it's called, or something. Anyways, don't quote me, look it up, So that's a scam. So essentially, countries that pollute, they must pay or buy credits for their pollution. So China gets away with with building more coal factories because, SIG basically you simply just buy more carbon credits. If you pollute more, you simply just buy more. And China is in a good position to buy, at large, carbon credits, simply because they've got the money. They're like the second largest, if not the first largest economy of the world today. And that is the fight that is happening in the world. So think of it this way. Let's look at the emission, just the breakdown. right? So we want to go from, we want to go from 732 from, you know, that's baseline to essentially by 2030, we need to be at 442, 405. So a reduction of 40%, roughly 42% if you take the average. And the idea is by 2050, that's what net zero is. By 2050, you will be at 0 megaton CO2. I have a hard time believing that, but let's just go with the narrative now. So if you look at the actual breakdown, so right now we're in capita-wise, so that what they call GHG emissions per capita. So Canada was number one. I believe we're still number one, but you know, you can go and do your research. This is data from 2019. We were number one in terms of emission intensity, 23 tons of carbon per capita or per person. Why? Because Canada is second largest landmass country, so to speak, in the world after Russia. So Russia takes, you know, number one. Despite the Soviet Union and the collapse of Mother Russia, we still have the Federation now as number one. So Alaska, for example, used to be part Russia, and that is history, documented. Not me, not conspiracy. This is documented history. Alaska was sold, you know, for $50 million at the time to pay for some of the debt that they had incurred prior to World War I and World War II, I believe. No, World War I. Yes. Anyways, so look at the emissions. We have 28% oil and gas. That's the emission of Canada. So 30% roughly, just oil and gas. And then transportation, 22%. So combined, you have 50% simply oil and gas and transportation. And now you've got the government of Canada trying to basically subdue and, you know, tell Alberta, which is a, you know, oil and gas rich province, which is pretty much Alberta pays more than the average Canadian per basically in terms of, you know, CPP contribution. These are facts, and this is why now they're speaking about the Alberta pension plan, because, you know, if you're a Canadian citizen and you contribute more than your, you know, neighbor and you end up with less, is it fair? Really? No, it's not fair. So Alberta contributes more per capita to the Canadian pension plan, yet they are being taxed the heaviest when it comes to carbon tax. Remember, Trudeau had exempted the eastern provinces, you know, the PEI and you know, that use and rely on heating oil for their heating supply. They got the exemption, but if you are in Alberta, unfortunately, and you have natural gas, well, guess what? You are going to be taxed to death, carbon tax, and that's reflected on your natural gas bill. In fact, I'm going to share with you how much exactly that is. So this is gas. So there's just zoom out a bit. This is Ontario, but numbers are roughly the same. So an average 2,000 square, you know, feet home essentially consumes roughly 420 meter cubic of natural gas. That translates to roughly 90 gigajoule to 100 gigajoule with the efficiency, because there's a leakage at the supply line before the meter. They must, you know, what they call it, bleed the line. So you must bleed the line because you do not want to have a, you know, pressure buildup, because natural gas is actually made of, you know, 98%, well, 92% to 98% methane, which is the cow fart that, you know, again, Bill Gates and co wants you to basically have less. They want to replace filet mignon, natural filet mignon, with, you know, lab grown meat. This is not conspiracy. This is facts. You see, you know, lab grown meat startups everywhere. You know, I'm not telling you things out of sci-fi book. This is life we're living. Those who understand and can actually observe what's happening around them can maybe understand what I'm talking about. So now, you know, you've got natural gas, 92% to 98% methane, and roughly, you know, a house consumes 420 meter cubic. You know, before now, these are the charges breakdown. So you have a customer charge, which is essentially the fixed cost you pay per month. So as a subscriber, so if I have a cell phone, right, which, for example, I'm waving here, that's my cell phone. I can use the cell phone, but to use the cell phone, I must be able to have a contract signed with, you know, the provider. In this case, would be Fido. So I pay the bill, you know, and then I get the service. I don't pay the bill, I don't get the service. Very simple. But even if I don't use the service, I must continue to pay the bill for the service to be available to me on demand. So this is why you pay a fixed cost. Now, you also need to basically pay for the consumption of the natural gas that you are using to heating your home. And again, This is the bill, average bill for the month of January, right? These are the numbers of 2023 facts. And if you own a home in Ottawa, you have roughly paid this much in January for your bill, plus or take. Now, if you do the same math, so you got cost adjustments, delivery charges, transportation charges for the local carbon. Now, what does this mean? A lot of people, I'm a visual person myself. I like to see numbers and just basically see what I'm paying for, graphically visualize it. And without the carbon tax, essentially the number would have been, or the bill would have been 165, no more, $165. This is the estimates. Whereas now you pay additional 60, so to speak, 60 bucks or so, right? 36% more just due to the carbon tax alone. So this is basically the dollar per meter cube, and this is cents per meter cube. You take this number, simply take 22.88 divided by 419, and that's how you get the math. Very simple. Let me just show you for those who are not too mathematically inclined. So we say $222.88. And those who study JavaScripts or web development, they tell you the best thing to do is always multiply currency with 100, so to get the cents, so to speak, to simplify your life. So 2288 cents divided by, for delivery charges fixed, by 419 meter cubic, and you get 5.46. That number is this number here. So this is how I get this math. And the percentages, essentially, this is, what they teach you in basic math, as you take the number 22.88, so again, 2288, divide by 22,181, remember, in cents, So we have, oops, I did not say that. So 2288 divide by 22181, and we get 10.3%. Wow, math adds up. So now, again, I'm not convincing you, but I'm just sharing with you basic math. Basic math, now we have 10%, 0.3, so to speak, of the bill that you pay goes towards your bill. So now you look at your actual bill breakdown. So you pay for gas supply, the actual gas that you consume is only 22.2%. So even if you add the cost adjustment, so you're roughly paying 25% of your bill that goes just for the consumption, and 75% of that bill goes towards governments in form of taxation, as well as utility companies. So remember, utility companies, they need to build infrastructure. To build infrastructure, you need to have lots of money. So government awards these contracts to these corporations. But how does the government award these contracts to these corporations, and how does it generate this money or get the money from? So government obviously is in the business of revenue, tax revenue. So we, 65% of the population of Canada, we contribute to the public trust. So I'm putting this back together here. So we pay 65%. So roughly, per capita, if you look on, per capita, let's just see that per capita. So if I do cost, or not cost, income, that average income per capita, Canada, 2024. So we are now, okay, is that monthly? It seems like monthly. Okay, let's just see that. 2023. So this year has not ended yet. So 2023, we've got, okay, so per capita. So this is the number we've got, right? 44,000, and this is the gross. Okay, so now let's just look at this now. 44,000. Call it 45. This. Income. So you have Stats Canada, so people don't think I'm just making shit up. 15 and new, 15 plus from 2018. Let's just say from 2008. 2008 is a very special year, 7, 8, so to speak. Now, what's access to? Okay, let's see what the data says, right? The data says what? The data says 2007, the average was roughly 26,000. Now the average is 32,000, 2022, right? Now, aggregate income, cost in dollars. All right, so let's try and make up sense of these numbers. So now, if you look at the income of person times 1,000, so if you have 195,000 times 1,000, that's 26 million, so to speak, and that is basically what I was sharing with you here earlier that roughly 65% population is the workforce, and that's how I ended up with the 26 million people. 26 million people is roughly the number here, 26, and we have multiplied, so 26,195 times 1,000, you get 26. Now, so with income, the people who actually do work is 25,562. There's a distinction between the two figures, but basically with income, and with income. Now, that number today in 2022, we have 31.2 million in the workforce. Now, our population has grown from 2007. So 2000, we are now 40 million people population roughly. So if you do 31.2 divided by 40, 78% actually people are working. Why, you would wonder? That's because they actually increased the retirement age. So retirement age used to be at, I believe, 65. We just see that retirement age. The retirement age can 65. The standard age to start the pension is 65. However, you can start receiving it as early as 60 or as late as 70, right off. And I believe there has been changes to the, retirement and pension requirements. But again, that does not concern me. I'm a free man, and that's what I'm trying to teach you. Now, if you look at the number of people working, 32 million people working. Now, how much do we actually make? This is the average income, average income, and this is the median income, right? So we have roughly average of, $57,000 in 2002, and roughly, if you round up, from $50,000 in 2007. So easy math. Your average salary or income, and this is, I believe, gross. I'm not too sure if this is, most likely it's a gross, but regardless. So 2007, so we were at $57,000. Round up 57,000 divided by, we were at in 2007 49, so just on to 50 dollars. That is only 1.14. Wow. How many years? So remember the number 1.14. So 10 plus memory. So now if you want to do the actual compound annual growth rate from 2020, this is what? 22. We have 28 forecasting. Let me just see if actually we have 24. No, they don't have data for that. So they have no data for 2023, but let's just say, take this data. So now, 2022 minus 2007, right? So how many years? 15 years. 15 years. Now, if you do 1.14, that's, remember, the ratio between the end value, 57,000.1, divided by 49.7. I just did 57 divided by 49. 57 again divided by 49. Okay. 1.16, right? No problem. So we can do that. Now, if you do to the power of 1 divided by 15, that's how many years it took, right? And then subtract minus 1. So we are talking roughly, that's wrong. So 57. Well, you don't want to believe me, let's just go actually do it this way. CAGR, calculate. Much easier. We'll verify the math again because we always do it. So we were at 57. We'll just actually copy paste 57.1. So we go here. And starting value, that's this here. And here was first answer. So check. Yep. And years is 15 years. Calculate. Wow. So we've got essentially your salary or your average income from 2007 till 2022 has only gone up by 0.9%. That's right. That's what the math says, and the math is easy, really. You can verify. So I said, the number for 57.1 divided by 49,700. That is 1.14, the number we had before, to the power of actually 1 divided by 15. That's the number of years. And then you subtract by minus 1 to get the percentage. And that is 0.009 times 100 to get the actual symbol. So 0.92%, and that's exactly the number we see here, 0.926, 0.9296, 0.9296. All right. So that tells you something. So over the last 15 years, the average income in Canada has only grown up by less than 1%. Whereas, home prices have increased from essentially, the figure I'm going to share with you, because why I know this is I'm a condo owner, so I'm going to share that number with you exactly. So they just switch to the tab. So Google sheet, where this Google Chrome. So sheet, switch down. Okay, here. So remember, let's check the math. So this is again in 2007. So remember from 2007, right? We use the same number, 2007 till 2022, 15 years. Average salary has only, or income has only increased by less than 1%. So he's living alone for 15 years, average salary has only increased by 1% or less. Now, in 2007, I bought my condo for $127,000, 500. That's facts. I have a record of that. Condo fees used to be $198. Okay, now today, or as of 2024, again, I have records, I'm paying $675 per month for condo fees. Now, if you apply that math, basically 674, 198, you get a CAGR, or a compound annual growth rate of 7.5%. That gives you, basically, if you apply the same math to the house value, I should be able to get roughly this exact same percentage of CAGR. I should be getting my house value at $435,000 roughly, right? That's a fair market value. Of course, that's a fair market value if it's, not manipulated and what I believe I should be getting, but the house will never sell for that much. Most likely I would sell for 380, 375 at best, if anything. Now, and this is part of the contestation or the issue that I have with the condominium corporation. Now, there's a breach of trust. So let's see it. The average salary has increased by 1%, whereas the cost of living has increased by 7.5% just for the home. So the average home has increased by 7.5%. Do basic math, 7.5% year over year versus less than 1% year over year. You'll never be able to actually afford a house. And that's what happened in 2021. There was the race, so to speak, the gold rush to buy assets. If you're, Vancouver market or Toronto, and you had basically taken money, or use that cash against your equity and bought homes cash. That's why you had essentially bidding wars, because the market was being rigged, manipulated. 2021, and that had a pandemic, I should say. People lost their jobs, small businesses, especially, schools, parks, everything was shut down except for two things: tobacco and the liquor store, and of course the weed shop, because now weed has become legalized since 2018. Remember, 2015, the government of Canada was essentially, the Liberals has scored majority, government landslide in 2015. And, the convoy happened, freedom convoy, pandemic, and 2021, 2022, and everybody remembers what happened the last 4 years. Remember, the government never forced you to take a shot or a vaccine. And they say that today. At the time, they did not tell you that. You were intimidated simply. You were told you have to. You were told you must take it. But understand, nobody can force you for shit. And that's exactly why we're talking about this, and why I'm sharing all this information and all this knowledge. These are facts. I live life. I don't read books. This is my experience in life. So when they tell you you cannot travel, you cannot drive because you need a driver license, that's not the issue, my friends, because the law is clear. The rule of the law is clear. And the rule of the law, which law that is, right? The supreme laws of the land. And we are, like I mentioned to you earlier, we are supposed to be the entrusted ones with this on the earth. And now we have laws of the sea that are being, imposed on the laws of the land, because really the corporations are nothing but, essentially business entities. Canada Corporation. That's why when you have an ID, when you assume an ID or you have a passport or something, everything is in capital. Like the name is in capital, if you can see, but my passport doesn't want. Oh, that's my face. Oh, that's 2015. Anyways, so, and that's the idea, there's a contract between you and the government. So you have to assert your natural rights and freedom. And once you start understanding how the world works and how governments are essentially nothing but corporations with their bylaws, which is the Constitution, which again is superseded by natural laws, the laws of the land, the supreme laws of the land. And this is why there's not a single trick in the book they can use against me and trying to frame me for the defamation and the prejudice that I've experienced myself, racial profiling, simply because I'm asserting my rights. This is about, remember, justice, because the rule of the law is clear. We are living here in Canada under a democracy. Democracy is a two-way street, but you must assert your right as a sovereign man because you are the executor of that will, if you will. But you don't have to die before you can execute the will. You can be executing the will at any point. You just have to assert those rights, your God-given natural rights and freedom, which are safeguarded by the Constitution. Again, trust foundation, that is the trust, the contract that you enter with the government. In exchange for citizenship, you have to be a law-abiding citizen. That's why the government will go out there and, pick you up if you're, say, in Lebanon, vacationing in Lebanon. You just happen to be a Lebanese, indigenous Lebanese, and, you have the right to go on vacation wherever you want in this life. The Constitution provides you with those rights and protect those rights for you. You have the freedom to roam the land anywhere you wish. You don't need a passport. You don't need a passport. You just need to understand how to assert your rights. But you get passports simply because it's a contract between you and the government of the land that you choose to live in. But once that government no longer represents you, and your views and belief, you can rescind that contract. It's void because they do not represent my views and belief. The Constitution safeguards those freedom of thoughts and belief. And this is why I can speak what I can speak, because I understand the law. The law is clear. The law is clear. This is why I'm taking videos now. I got banned from LinkedIn, but it doesn't matter. That Stooge platform is for trolls. Bill Gates is their masters. But then you have, Twitter, and you have their masters. So every platform has its masters. Who's your master? Who do you trust? I trust in the law. That's what I trust. And therefore, you get to know things that nobody else can give you, because all the books that you read in the life, the books that you read, the school that you go to, the university that you attend, and the money that you pay for, remember, it's all dead science. Someone has already written the book, because guess what? That's their own experience, that their own, knowledge they come across, they discovered, and they're sharing with the world. So they write books. But that person does not live forever. We are all mortals, so to speak. So mortals mean that you have finite life. Life is so sacred. That's why life is so sacred. But people do not understand this very concept thing, that life is sacred. And you cannot kill a life. You cannot actually, cut a tree, because a tree is a living thing. The tree is giving us oxygen that pseudoscience tells you need to breathe. And there's an attack on the fossil fuel, which is not really the fossil fuel, it's the carbon dioxide, CO2. And again, you don't need a PhD degree in law or physics or basic science, so to speak, to understand life. You see movies, Lion King, there's a Lion King and there is Scar. The two are lions. But what is the moral of the story? When you watch Disney, when you watch cartoon, when you watch The Simpsons, when you watch movies, The Matrix, there's a lot of subliminal messages out there, but people do not actually, care to think and ponder what the message, the intent, because you got holy scriptures that tells you stories, and the stories are not necessarily shared with everyone. But understand, we have one mankind, Bashar, that's us, Bashar. But then you have Bani Adam, so there are many tribes, different tribes and nations, so to speak. أقوام وشعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا في كتاب العزيز. Allah says, وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا. So that is the really, the interpretation or understanding of the words of the law book. If you believe in the law, if you're a Muslim, then that's your book. Quran is your book. The Quran is not just a book of, wisdom. It's not a conspiracy book. There are 1.6 billion believers that they consider themselves Muslim. Same thing with the Christians. We have our brothers, the Christians, as well as the Jews and the Hindus. We are all brothers. We are all human beings. We are people first, before we are engineers, before we are business owners, before we are chiefs, because remember, you are selected by the people, you are chosen by the people to represent the people. That is the election, that is democracy. The problem is this: you're not exercising true democracy, because you see the government doing all sort of things that does not represent your values and views, you know, and yet people are afraid to speak. They don't want to speak about this injustice, about this, violation and breach of trust of the constitutional right. Look, you want to, push a certain agenda, you wouldn't like it if somebody was holding the Bible or the scripture, or pick your favorite one and preaching to you. I'm not preaching. I'm just trying to tell you, utilize this. You've got that gift of the mind. You all have it. That's what separates, men or, humans from animals. We are animals at the instinct. We need to eat. We need to mate, to procreate, and we need to basically take a shit, for lack of better terms. And essentially, that's life. Buy and sell. If you do not want to buy and sell, you don't have to participate in society. But to participate in society, you must be a good person, good citizen of the society. The society is made from different, backgrounds, different facets. We need those engineers, janitors, garbage collectors. We need everyone. That's what makes society, the fabric of the society. It's not about multiculturalism and imposing your views and values on other people that do not agree with you. That's not democracy. That's not how the world is supposed to be. Your freedom stops when you start infringing on other people's freedoms. So I'm here sitting down in a public place. I can record myself. Nobody can tell me what to do. Again, within my rights, within my freedom, that nobody can tell me to turn off this camera. I can talk till the cows come home. And this is what I'm trying to tell you, people. Understand, no one can tell you what to do in life. You are your own master, so to speak, within the rule of the law. You go back to that belief, that voice. If you believe in a creator, he will tell you, he will guide you. And essentially, you will discover the truth. The truth is that we are all one people, one human beings. We've been divided throughout the centuries and history. History, recorded human history has started in Babylon. There's a reference for Babylon. Why Babylon? Babylon, Al-Iraq. Al-Iraq مرتان. Why? So you had Nimrod at one point, and you had Tobit Nasser, right? Another Babylon. So two. Al-Iraq مرتان. And the world has witnessed righteous men and evil men, so to speak. Those who, strike or has strike alliance with, the devil, so to speak, Iblis, Lucifer. Latin word Lucifer means Lucy, Pharaoh means what? You can Google Lucy for light, Pharaoh for fire. So yes, we can light fire and you can see lights from the fire, but that's not the light that we see. The sun is not the source of the light that is there for everybody. Because when it's cloudy, you still see daylight. It's not called sunlight, it's called daylight for a reason. Because you can have cloudy days such as today, and we have plenty of daylights. You can see my face clearly. The fact that you have your eyes closed and you're blind to the reality does not mean that reality ceases to exist. You're just living in a distorted reality, my friend, my brother, my sister. My brother, my sister, we are supposed to be caring for each other. You would not treat a dog in a bad way, as I said earlier, SWAT team, Humane Society would come after you. You'll be incarcerated for life. So why are we insulting? Why are we attacking each other? Why are we divided? Why are we divided? Where is justice? People are afraid to speak. That's the reason. Because they have weak faith. Not everybody says, I believe is a believer. You could be a blind believer, brainwashed with dogma, intertwined indoctrination, so to speak, with cultural baggages. So Damascus, there's a historical and biblical reference for the city of Damascus. And again, I never read no book. I just observe the world and I live life and I experience life. And that's who I am. Ahmad. Ahmadullah. Thank the Lord, the Supreme Lord. Shahadi. There are those signs we understand what that means. My last name means shooting star. And those who were awake yesterday in the skies of Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Jordan, they witnessed Shihab, which is a shooting star. It's a sign for all those who believe. Time is coming. Time is coming. Time is here. So yeah, it's very emotional sometimes, and this is not about me. Everybody, I told you before, there are cosmic things happening, universal things happening, and that is what I'm speaking. Universal law, natural law, then man-made laws. No matter what I say, no matter what you think, my opinion doesn't matter. Earth will continue to spin at 1,000 miles an hour this way, counterclockwise. Counterclockwise. That's what the Earth does, 1,000 miles an hour. But why does the Earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour and you are not flying? You don't see us flying. That's because it's a stationary reference of inertia. So we are on a stationary, so to speak, vehicle or falk or fulk, how you want to read it. الفلك المشحون. What is الفلك المشحون? This is planet Earth, الكوكب الأرضي. وإذا الأرض كورت. So we know what Earth is. It's not flat Earth. It's spherical. Spherical. It has its own electromagnetic field. That electromagnetic field is natural to Earth, and you cannot stop Earth from spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, no matter what you think. But there's a time that Earth will cease to spin in the counterclockwise direction because there's electromagnetic field which is caused by the spin of the Earth core. We have the Earth core, which is made of ferromagnetic material, iron, al-hadid. There's a chapter in the book of the Quran about al-hadid, Surah al-Hadid. And then as you understand, the periodic table, and al-hadid is number 26 on the periodic table. I don't have to teach you basic science. You can go back to Google and figure out what 2 plus 6 equal, and why 8, and the significance of 8, and why 8 is very, the symbolism is just surreal here. And if you connect that to, say, if ever you go to some entertainment bar, nightclub, you see a pool, billiard pool table, and there's 8. There's something to do with the 8. There's a connection there. But anyways, it's not about the pool table. It's about understanding. Earth has its own magnetic field, and it spins and it spins and it spins. And in the book, for those who believe and understand faith, I can ponder and think, well, if Earth is spinning this way at 1,000 miles an hour, and Judgment Day is coming, and those who believe in Judgment Day, they tell you, well, the sun will rise from the west, because right now the sun always rises from the east. And Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, has challenged Nimrod, right? Because God, right, meaning the sun rises from the east. So he challenges Nimrod because Nimrod had claimed to be God on earth. That's kind of the connection here between Nimrod and Lucifer and Adam, so to speak, and Abraham. Everything has to make sense when you start understanding the scriptures from a mathematical point of view or logical and reason with it. Because remember, if it contradicts with something, it is not a law. The laws aren't clear. They cannot be contradicting on themselves. Because a law is clear. So yeah, there's a lot I can talk about. There's a lot to speak about. And how does the earth, or how would the sun rise from the west? So remember, earth spins this way, and if the sun is, well, it's kind of reversed because you guys are looking at me, but sun is here, and this is earth. And the earth is spinning this way. So I'm gonna do it this way. So imagine there's the cup. The cup is spinning. You see that handle of the cup? It's spinning this way, right? That's how the earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour. So this handle here spins, and you see it. So that's
imagine you are seeing you are the sun. Now, for the sun to start rising from the west, what must happen is the sun does not move, but what's going to happen is the earth will have to spin the other way. So if you're spinning this way first, and the sun was here, and you're seeing the sun because you're spinning counterclockwise, right? But suddenly, if you stop and start, so you're spinning it now, you spin the opposite way, that's when the sun will rise from the west. So how could the sun rise from the west? Well, we just said that the earth must spin the opposite direction. But how would the earth spin in the opposite direction? Scientifically, how can you do that? Now, those who understand electromagnetism and basic Faraday laws, you have a wire, put your hand, if there's a current that passes through that wire, you have an electric field that runs such this way, either if you're out of the page or into the page. And your right hand rule can tell you which direction the magnetic field goes about. Very simple. Now, if you switch the direction, so right now we have north pointing this way, right? We have north. We have north. We are now true north. So Earth is spinning around this way, north. If you have your hand, your thumb up north, and you have a little bit of a tilt because the Earth does not spin around itself around this axis. It spins around itself around this axis. There's a tilt. So it tilts. Now, if the pole reverses from north to south, which will happen, but that's only a single event in humanity or in the history of humanity, so to speak, and that would cause the electromagnetic field to cause reversal. So remember, Earth spins this way, it wobbles, right? That's what science tells you, it wobbles, it goes around this axis because we have the, supposed to say the elliptical, that's what they want to do, but it's not elliptical, it's a circular orbit. It's not elliptical, it's a circular orbit. Earth orbits the sun, circular, right? That's what NASA tells you. So if it's circular, because you have the sun star, because if it was an elliptical, then you would have a two foci. Ellipse will have two foci, but sun doesn't have two focal point that it orbits. It only orbits the sun. The sun is our star. So it must be, by the logic and deduction, a circular orbit. Circular orbit means on the path, it's an equidistance line from the center to the path of orbit. And it's exactly 364 days. Exactly 364 days. Not 365, not 366, because that's universal law. How do I know that? Well, those again who ponder and look at the universe and nature and they ponder, because remember, science is an observation of universal and natural phenomena. So you got a turtle. Those who understand and have seen turtle shells, you've got 13 major shells. 13 major shells. When you multiply by 13, so those are 13 major shells. You multiply by 28. 28 why? Because you have 28 subshells. So let me show you what I'm talking about. We have Google for a reason. So turtle shell. All right, very good. So that's a turtle shell. Let's see. Anyway, let us count. So we have, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then 1, 2, 3. So those are 13. Now, if we count, start from this point, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I must have missed 1 or 3 at this point. Let's count again. Count. Turtle moon. Turtle. So it's very clearly marked in this figure. So 13 major ones and 28 small shells. But again, we'll try to find a real turtle because the image I saw did not, my eyes, I could not see 28 shells, but there must be 28 shells. If creator made 28 shells, it must be 28 shells. So that's your exercise. You can look at yourself, and maybe if you see, here's a nice descriptive turtle shell. So you have 1 subshells all the way to 28. You have 13 shells, so we counted 13. Now let's do math. And why is this important? Why is turtle important? So if you do 13 multiply by 364. Oops, sorry. 13 times 28, right? That is 364 days. That is the universal time effect. takes 364 days for the sun, for the Earth to orbit the sun. But there's that tilt. Now, when the Earth reverses its direction, the spin, remember, spinning this way now it stops. But before stop, it has to reverse direction. It must slow down until a complete stop. It's like you're driving a car. If you're driving a car, you cannot go from 100 miles an hour in one direction to 100 miles an hour in the opposite direction, because first you must come to, a complete stop, which requires you to deaccelerate or slow down. Very simple. So when that happens, you have Earth as a molten lava. This iron is a molten lava, but it generates this electromagnetic field due to the Earth spin. You have this electromagnetic field naturally occurring due to the spin, and that's what shields us from harmful, solar flares and other things that basically are in space. So now, if the Earth's spinning this way and spinning, now they gotta spin the other way. So the field must reverse. So you're reversing this way. Now it's opposite direction. Makes sense. And that happens only once in a lifetime. That's your like dead day, so to speak, judgment day. Can be calculated, but I'm not going to speak about that in this video. We can calculate exactly when we expect that to happen. And this is why NASA and the rest of the world are racing to the North Pole, because remember, the pyramids were built within 3/69 of a degree of true north. Why? Those who know. So remember, universal law, 963. That's what I believe in. That is what I want to share with you for today. I want to leave soon to play the guitar at Dow's Lake. So I'll catch you there. Peace.